ahead. Whenever new challenges came up, their guidance helped us figure out our next step. We still have tough days, but now we have direction. And I have the tools and resources I need to help my child thrive. No matter where you are on the path, Understood can help you keep moving forward. Visit understood.org/yourpath today.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Today's the type of day where you could use Dan Campbell as your motivator to get you fired up and ready to perform, even when your back may feel against the wall based upon this inclement weather. Yes, as we welcome you into the Fast Lane, you could perhaps say I am trolling our very own TJ Wilkerson because
it's looking a little bit like those Dallas Cowboys is peaking in the 90s.
After they looked fantastic in the second half against Philadelphia, not really the first. And after, I should say that again, after they sounded fantastic in the second half against Philadelphia and sounded fantastic against the Kansas City Chiefs in games that you heard on the VTRN Sports app. Last night, not as much. And yes, I get we're taking a detour.
Time to take a detour in the fast lane.
But because TJ Wilkerson has shown up today to produce the fast lane in spite of this weather. By the way, we hope everybody's safe. It was not nearly as safe this morning when Trey and Ty were trying to get out for the morning warm-up. That's why we didn't have it today. They'll be back Monday, 7 to 8 a.m. right here, VTRN Sports 93.3 FM, powered by ESPN Radio. But if we displayed the effort of, how do I say this, George Pickens last night. Did you see that, by the way, or hear it? Let me rephrase it. Did you hear it on the VTRN Sports app, or have you seen the highlights of George Pickens breaking free of the double coverage of the Detroit Lions with about 2 and change to go in the game, and the ball landing basically at his feet, and he didn't even extend his arms? I mean, for a guy that's made spectacular catches this year, he has been an all-pro caliber wide receiver. That happened. Like, your effort showing up today is more than he showed last night. So I should commend you while offering, sorry to say this, TJ, but yes, a backhand compliment more at the direction of your team than at you yourself. That has to rankle your feathers as a Cowboys fan, seeing how much potential he has. But when the team really needs him the most in a tough road game, what in the world was that?
Hearing it last night was it was bamboozling. That's the best way to put it. It was just bamboozling.
I mean, we're in an era where I get there's player empowerment. I get that the effort meter is supposed to not be questioned, although I go the other direction. Starting in college, with these players getting paid, it's legitimate to question effort, performance, everything else. You want, as Kenny Powers will remind you, dollar bills, y'all. Then the reality is you got to take grown-up criticism as well. You're going to be treated like an employee. Part of being an employee is criticism comes your way. Anybody who's held a job for a period of time understands that. And so that's the big issue I have, is just what in the world was the effort? Look, we're going tonight, by the way, not the game you can hear. You can hear the game that you might want to know about if you're a JMU fan that has some college football playoff implications. We've got tons of them this weekend.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the fast lane.
But at 7:30 p.m. tonight, we'll have the AAC Championship, Tulane at North Texas, which is another case study to what you can also find in Harrisonburg tonight when the JMU Dukes, about 3.5 touchdown favorites, 23.5, 24, depending on when and where you might be looking. Harder to find that in Virginia, but going off of what I had heard earlier today, about 23.5 to 24-point favorite of the Dukes. And what's going to be a slick Harrisonburg, Virginia. I don't think any of these teams are impacted the way they used to be by coaching changes that are imminent. Look, the AAC title game features 2 schools whose coaches have left for other programs. The Sun Belt Championship features the heavy favorite as the team whose coaches left for another program, to the point where He has not technically signed the contract by all accounts. Everyone's saying it's going to happen after this game tonight that Bob Chesney will sign it. But we have gotten to the point where, no joke, Matt Roan, first big hire as the athletic director for the Dukes, by all accounts, because the same people that reported Chesney to UCLA have now reported that Billy Napier has agreed to take the job at JMU. Like, this is the era in which we live, where literally you've got the replacement lined up for a coach who technically has not signed for his new job and to leave his current job. Part of this is, again, repeat me if I've said this already in the fast lane, the Clint Dowdle and more known Jimmy Sexton connections, as they are the pawn makers and kingmakers, Dowdle the pawn maker, Sexton the kingmaker in college athletics. I mean, literally, I could envision a scenario, and I know Shane Metlin has discussed this. We'll discuss it with him again Monday in covering the Commonwealth. But I can clearly envision the scenario where, middle of the season, Jimmy Sexton goes up to Matt Roan, whether it's, in person or over the phone or video, I don't know, and basically says, look, there's enough interest out there. It's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to keep Bob Chesney. And rather than fighting back against it, Matt Roan goes, okay, what do you have for me instead? Well, we got a coach who's proven he can win in the Sun Belt Conference, but didn't get a long leash at Florida, and frankly, did have a number of mishaps in the SEC where that coaching is magnified. See Hugh Freeze at Liberty. I think Freeze could be a good coach at a group of 5 program. I don't at all dispute that theory behind it, where the attention to detail is less magnified and the gaps between the haves and have-nots of some of these programs is much more glaring and magnified versus the SEC, the Big Ten in particular, where everybody's basically playing from a very similar financial position. And because of all of that, and because players now can make some money at smaller schools and more money at bigger schools, I think there's less pressure than ever before in the changing landscape, which is why I'll go to another direction. Game 4 of our quadruple header tomorrow on the VTR and Sports app at 93.3 FM. Kicks off Big 12 championship game at 11:30. We'll have some Virginia Tech basketball, men's basketball against George Mason. Then we'll have the SEC championship game, and then we'll cap it off with the ACC championship game. But there were rumors it's not going to happen because Matt Campbell's going to Penn State. But I never even thought that the idea of Manny Diaz, if he was going to be the choice at Penn State, I never thought it would distract him because we're in an era where I think these players know that it's more of a business than ever before. So the idea of your coach being considered somewhere else is less of a distraction, which is a bit of a convenient segue to welcome in the next guest here into the Fast Lane, as he is gracious enough to join us looking ahead to the ACC Football Championship. That is no longer a headline because Matt Campbell, by all accounts, is going to take that job at Penn State. So Manny Diaz, cross him off the list to go there. But when you look at the ACC Championship game, despite that, I don't think these are distractions than ever before. Somebody who is very familiar with the changing landscape of college athletics, generous enough to join us in the Fast Lane. It's Wes Durham. He is Wes Durham, and he is joining us. Wes, we're glad to speak with you. Thank you for joining us on behalf of the ACC Network and the coverage leading up to the ACC Football Championship. Before we get into the matchup itself, am I off base that the idea of coaches looking for financially greener pastures has less of a distraction on their current teams because many of these players are doing the same thing themselves?
Oh, I think that's fair. I think to a degree, they're very similar. I would say this. I think ADs are also sparking some of this, Ed, because they have to be careful with roster management for their football programs. If you don't make a fast hire, and I'll give you an example from a couple of years ago when J-Bat fired Josh Pastner and 72 hours later hired Damon Stoudemire in order to keep the roster intact. That's what's happening now in college football. If you're going to make a change like Cal did, they got rid of Justin Wilcox with a game to go. Nick Rolovich won the game against SMU, and Tosh Lupoy is the new coach who's speaking to the media at this hour in the Bay Area. So it just goes to show you have to move fast. You have to move with a degree of diligence. The old adage that ADs should keep a short list in their desk drawer has never been more apparent than right now, because there shouldn't be an AD in the country, especially at a Power 4 school, that doesn't have an idea who he would hire, either on the current staff or from some other school, if his coach left for one reason or another. If he made the change, if the coach made the change, whatever. I think it's an integral part now of being athletic directors, and it also shows you how different the AD job is, to be honest.
Wes Durham stepping into the Fast Lane from the ACC Network. We'll transition from that, and we will get back to the matchup in Charlotte tomorrow night that caps off our VTR in Sports powered by ESPN Radio quadruple header, Virginia against Duke in the ACC Championship game. But before we get to all of that, Wes, you mentioned the expeditiousness for coaching hires. How much
Right.
do the Virginia Tech Hokies deserve to be commended for that? Because it looks like this has gone off seamlessly. No telling how the results will be, but just the optics and the process of identifying James Franklin, getting him onboarded, getting him early, and therefore setting up for, we don't know about the portal yet, but what was a real strong recruiting signing day for them on Wednesday.
Well, given that they were the first in the pool by firing Brent Pry, too, don't underestimate the fact they fired Brent Pry. James Franklin was second in the country. That part, remember that? Remember that statement? They fired Brent Pry. James Franklin was number 2 in the country. So Virginia Tech made an early decision to change coaches. James Franklin just happened to emerge as the guy. And I give credit to the committee and Dr. Sands and Whit and everybody else involved in it that they were able to get James Franklin's name on the dotted line before some of these other jobs came open. That's the critical piece there. And whatever the landscape was that, it was rumored to happen, and then 6 days later it did roughly, whatever transition occurred in those 6 days, then good for Virginia Tech and good for James Franklin. Look, he changes the game for me. He's a guy that comes into this league who knows what the ACC is. He was the offensive coordinator and on staff with Ralph Regan at Maryland. He knows what the Atlantic Coast Conference is, at least the conventional ACC. He's a guy that won at Vanderbilt and he won at Penn State, and I suspect he'll do the same at Virginia Tech. I'm excited to have him in the league. He is a voice in college football. Some can say controversial at times. Fine. We need more of those, to be honest with you. We don't need people just to kind of go about their business in a, docile day-to-day way. We need people that'll make statements, and I think James will do that. And I think he'll also energize that fan base that is as good as it gets in the ACC when they're winning.
Wes Durham from the ACC Network is with us here in the Fast Lane. We've touched on all of those particular angles. The team that beat Virginia Tech fairly soundly 27-7 this past Saturday in Charlottesville. And correct me if I'm wrong, just being there in person myself, our own TJ Wilkerson, who's producing today, he was there with us as well.
Right.
It almost looked like that could have been an even more emphatic victory for Virginia. Was it not running the score up on the Hokies, or was it more of a game management theory, knowing that Tech could not move the football, and therefore when it got to 17-0, you had the feeling they weren't going to get 3 scores unless Virginia messed it up. So you got to start preserving yourself, knowing you're going to be in Charlotte for this championship.
That's correct. Yes, you saw exactly what was happening. They knew good and well there was a possibility, the win was going to work. They knew if they won, they were in. And so when they got a working margin against an offense that clearly was struggling as the year wore on in Blacksburg, they, I'm sure, managed the game. And that was a critical piece of the whole operation for me, was that and look, I think Tony talked about it this afternoon, the injuries that they're facing. Mikhail Boley left the game on crutches. He's going to try and give it a go tomorrow. I give that kid a lot of credit. But the left side of their offensive line is the best side of their offensive line. So they need Mikhail Boley to play as well as he can given the circumstances. But the game tomorrow, Ed, to me, is about what Virginia can do without Cam Robinson on the field. It's a different customer now at quarterback. This guy's really good. Virginia took him off point in the first game because Virginia was able to set the tone with the long drive to start the game. And I think it's important to realize the best way to beat Duke is to keep your offense on the field. And hopefully that'll be the case for Tony if Virginia wants to post the win. Find a combination at running back to go with Taylor tomorrow. Make it work. Throw the ball when you need to. Let Morris make plays. But also, don't give them any freebies. If you're Virginia, you don't want to give Duke a cheap one on the house. Mensah gets warm. He gets in rhythm. Shepard runs the ball. He and Castle. Castle's mostly a red zone guy or a third and short guy. But I had Duke's last 2 regular season games. I was impressed with now they gave up some big plays, but in wins over Carolina and certainly over Wake Forest, against Wake Forest, they forced 4 turnovers. They've got 60. They are plus 16 takeaway giveaway in ACC. It's a ridiculous number. And yet that's the way they found the magic to win these games and somehow or another stay in the hunt. And give them credit. They're there because of their ability to persevere in games. And I think Manny's done a really nice job at Duke. I think Tony's done a fantastic job at Virginia. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. The outside noise on the game is going to be an entirely different situation to what actually takes place on the field.
And we can get to the outside noise because it is a storyline that is worth discussing about the ACC Football Championship with Wes Durham of the ACC Network, who has seen Virginia, has seen Duke, has seen Virginia Tech, among other teams this year in his coverage, and is generous enough to lend some of his perspective today here in the Fast Lane. For Virginia, you mentioned Cam Robinson.
Right.
Does playing the majority of that game in Durham without him, help Virginia, or is it just totally different because you're now in a spot where Duke's been able to adjust to Virginia's defense and how it operates? Granted, it's really just a game's worth of size, but how they operate without Cam.
Well, to me, the most important players tomorrow for Virginia, Robinson certainly would have been one if he'd have been healthy. But for me tomorrow, Ed, the most important players are probably like Rickert, K-Mac, Carter, guys up front who have made plays consistently. Because that's the way you're going to get Duke off its point offensively, is with pass pressure. Not allowing Shepard to get loose, running the football, keeping an eye on Hazley, the tight end. The situation at corner in the secondary, Virginia can give up a bubble or shot here or there throughout the year. I think you've seen that, and I have too. But the Cavaliers have to be careful Barcade doesn't get loose. You're going to pay for it if Barcade's in the open field. Look at what happened to Clemson. Clemson let them get him rhythm. Clemson didn't pressure the pocket at all. Shepard had some success running the ball, and the next thing you know, Mensah is on fire at Clemson. And that's the kind of thing. Here's the other part, too, that nobody's accounting for. Duke's pretty good at special teams. You don't want to kick it to Samir Hagans. You want to keep it out of play. Just kick the ball through the end zone, let them play from the 25 type deal. And when you punt the ball, be careful that you're not going to give up something there. A busted play in special teams can also get Duke going. I saw that in Clemson. I also saw it, quite frankly, in the ball game at Chapel Hill. And last week against Wake Forest again. They're kind of hot. Gabe and Fonte's done a nice job with their special teams. Virginia can also respond, too. They've got players that can make plays on special teams. That side of the ball game in a game like this probably also needs to be honored like the offense and defensive side do as well.
How much stock do you put in? You mentioned special teams. You put a lot into that for Duke. What about this chip on the shoulder concept of Manny Diaz, arguing that, if we win, we should be in the playoff? There's a debate for that, but how much do you put into that?
I think, look, Manny's doing all his best, and he should to stump for, Duke if they win the championship to be in the playoff, but the chances are thin. The metrics and the measurement and all the things into play. Look, did they play a difficult schedule? Yes. Was it incredibly hard? No. Did they, lose to teams like Illinois, Tulane, who's obviously playing the American Championship, UConn, who probably would have been in the Big East or whatever if they just stayed there, the American Championship if they just stayed in the league? Yeah, I mean, you lost those games, but those games – the Illinois turnover, Illinois didn't play. Illinois is not playing for the Big Ten title. Illinois was not in a top 15 discussion in the last month of the season, right? So you did. Yeah, you played Big Ten teams, you played P4 schools, and you played UConn, but you didn't – those teams weren't in discussion. Tulane was, UConn wasn't, Illinois wasn't. And you lost to Georgia Tech, and you lost to Virginia, who had good years, and they're not in the discussion either, right? So – Virginia might be if they win, but Georgia Tech wasn't. So I understand what he's saying. I totally am for it, but it's probably going to fall on deaf ears. If they win, I don't think they're going to make it. I just don't. Because the other things of if Virginia wins, they're going. The question is, what happens with Texas Tech and what happens with Georgia? And if they win, how do they win? Because if they do, that clears the path for Miami and the Notre Dame situation to play itself out.
Wes, you teed it up for us. Best case scenario, Virginia wins, and somehow Miami gets in. Okay scenario, Virginia gets in. Worst case scenario, Duke wins, nobody gets in from the ACC. You got to put 5 shekels down. Where are you going?
I think Virginia wins, and I think I don't think as much as I liked L.J. Martin this year at BYU, and I think the story of Bachmeier is pretty interesting at quarterback, and Kalani Sitake is always fun to watch, but I don't think they win. I think Texas Tech is paid for, and they're really good. I mean, they're paid for, too. That's a $40+ million football team, Ed. Don't forget that. 3 of the top 4 teams that I think are locks going into tomorrow, Georgia, Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas Tech. Ohio State and Georgia and Texas Tech are all 40 million plus. So, I mean, I don't know why anybody's surprised that those teams are at the top. They've got more invested from a resource perspective than anybody else. So,
Resource, with the S being a dollar sign for that.
well, you never know. It's the way it works.
Wes, we'll wrap it up on this one. I've been dying to ask you this. Not trying to get a troll job out there, but you've had the you could call it privilege of covering the Bobby Petrino era with the Atlanta Falcons.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't know we were going here. What's happening?
Well, and you've covered games involving Bill Belichick in his first year at North Carolina.
Sure.
Rather than trying to pigeonhole you in one direction or another, we'll give you the compare and contrast. Is it even feasible to compare and contrast what it's like being a member of the media covering one compared to the other?
No, it's a different animal for Belichick than anybody else. Because Bobby Petrino hadn't won anything. Bill Belichick's won 6 Super Bowls. So when you're in the room with Bill Belichick, you're still within the room. He's not there yet. You're in the room, though, with somebody who, if he goes back to the NFL, needs 15 wins to become the greatest football coach in professional football history. That part, Bobby Petrino doesn't have that. That's what Bill Belichick has. So it makes him different. Look, Carolina's got to make a decision. They got to decide, they got to do a better job at player evaluation. I think that falls into it, Ed. I think there's other things that are going on there that Carolina's got to get right. And the calendar might have caught them a little bit. They got the job in December. They thought the process could take care of itself pretty seamlessly, and it didn't. I don't know if you saw this afternoon. Max Johnson's in the transfer portal, going to try and play a 7th year. They already had lost Chris Culliver. Kamari House went in yesterday. And Carolina's on the way to having 60 new players if, things hold true. But they had a good recruiting class. But then again, everybody has a good recruiting class in the way it works.
Yeah, in this day and age, especially when they're transfer heavy. West Durham, ACC Network here in the Fast Lane. We're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts if you've missed anything. Wes, thank you for your time today. We are grateful for you making time for us today. Enjoy the action Saturday from whatever takes place in Charlotte, and best of travels to you. Prayers for you with safety and smoothness in your travels with basketball season here, and, of course, the Falcons still playing.
All right, Ed. Thanks. Take care. Have a great holiday.
You as well. Happy holiday season to West Durham of the ACC Network. We are grateful for his time today in the Fast Lane. When we return, we'll get into the weeds on the college football transfer portal and signing day and how they impact perception around that. Plus, the Fast Five at 5-ish. Then, around 5:45, Ahmad Hawkins, former Virginia Cavalier wide receiver and football analyst for the UVA Radio Network, friend of ours, family member, we call him, here in the Fast Lane. That's still to come. VTRN Sports app and Ask That Smart Speaker. Open VTRN Sports.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
Hey, this is Jake with Western Ways in Forest. Shop our thousands of pairs of boots in store with personalized customer service and excellent pricing. Shop Western Ways this holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's from our family to yours.
Hi, Danny from Gibbons Books Little Dickens. We believe in reading and play and in shopping locally for stronger communities. 3 times more jobs are created by local businesses versus online sales. This holiday season, live local and shop local for a better Central Virginia.
This holiday season, take a step back in time to the heart of the 1940s. Join us at Cedar Oaks Farm in Bedford, Virginia for The Christmas List, a World War II era radio play recorded live to benefit the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Experience the story of the Bedford boys and their last Christmas before shipping out to serve their country. A moving night of laughter, love, and the true spirit of Christmas, featuring live music, classic sound effects, and a full cast performing just like the golden days of radio.
Ding-a-ling, 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 the night is made for sweet romancing. Ha! Ho! Through the snow we go.
Performances are December 12th and 13th at 7 p.m. and December 14th at 2 p.m. Tickets are on sale now at CedarOaksFarm.com, with proceeds benefiting the National Center for Healthy Veterans. Come share a nostalgic Christmas at Cedar Oaks Farm, where memories, music, and history come alive.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Brooks with the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, sending best wishes to all of our friends and customers during this pleasant time. We encourage you to think local, be local, and buy local this holiday season. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from your friends at Farmers Bank.
Hi, this is Bill Roth of the Virginia Tech Hokies. You know, all of us here at the Virginia Tech Sports Network want to send our heartfelt thanks and our very best holiday wishes to you and your family. We're grateful to have you as part of the Hokies community, and we appreciate you tuning in to our Tech football and basketball broadcasts right here on VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Happy holidays, everyone.
After earning the Region 4D Championship, Jefferson Forest Cavaliers football, presented by TrostBall.com, heads to the state semifinals this Saturday, December 6th. Your Central VA floor and kickoff show begins at 1:30 for JF at the Varina Blue Devils. Join us on the Virginia's Talk Station app, 100.9 FM Lynchburg, 95.5 FM Bedford, and Open Virginia Talk Radio Network on your smart speaker. JF football is also presented by the Concrete Wizard, Impact Church, Clyde Smith Plumbing, Apple Auto Glass, and Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Bedford.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Join me for Foster and Friends, Saturday 9 to 10 a.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
What a world in which we live. National Signing Day, in case you didn't even pay attention, was this past Wednesday. If you're a Virginia Tech fan, you absolutely paid attention. It's fantastic. You flip the number of players from Penn State. You retain 6 of the 9 players committed under Brent Pry. You have a good base for James Franklin now that he gets ready to attack the transfer portal with players unofficially entering the transfer portal now. That window technically opens January 2nd. So good for them. If you're a JMU fan, I don't even know how you approach it because you're about to lose your coach to UCLA, but you already now know that Billy Napier is going to take over for Bob Chesney. Jimmy Sexton swapping one client out for another. Everybody wins with pay raises and landing spots and all the good stuff that comes from that. Shout out to Jimmy Sexton. Virginia. They had a small class, relatively speaking, but 16 players for the Virginia class. I think this is the norm for them. Liberty with 19. Gone are the days of 25 plus for most places. North Carolina, USC, 30 plus person classes are more the exception than the norm. But the reality is it's more of a blend than ever before. And honestly, I think you should try to take good high school players, but you probably want to be more selective when it comes to that. It's not just me. Tony Elliott said it's different as well when he spoke Wednesday.
Just overall with signing day, because it has changed with where college football is and so much emphasis on the portal. I think it's taken away a little bit from the signing day. It's a little bit better for coaches because you're not sitting there like sweating it out in front of a fax machine.
No, you're not. It's just a different manner. Part of the reason you're not is rev share, NIL, whatever you want to call it, pay for play. For some players, it's not the only factor, but let's be real here. It's a legitimate factor for pretty much every player right now. The amount of players that have agents. Even looking at Liberty, Jaden Bradford entered the transfer portal. Mea culpa on that. I thought it was a big signing when Liberty got him. It was a 4-star player committed to Liberty a couple of years ago. It just never panned out. Best description I heard of Jaden Bradford was, Heisman caliber highs, but JV caliber lows. I'm talking high school JV caliber. Like, that's the description. You can put some of that on Liberty's coaching staff, not being able to correct it and get it out of them. Some of it's also on the player. Again, in this day and age, I think you're equal responsibility. But the reality is it never materialized. I thought it was going to be a bigger impact for Liberty, especially mobility, Chadwell solution system. It just never happened. Time will tell if Bradford lands somewhere else and balls out and Liberty gets to ask why we didn't get something out of him, or if he kind of fizzles off into the dust, which does happen with players as well in this day and age. But the reality is that's an example of it. And frankly, I think Liberty's more positioned to get some 4-stars like JMU and like others, high school players, because high schools are going to put out a number of talented players, but college classes are just going to be smaller than they've ever been, as Tony Elliott continued elaborating.
Now things have become so streamlined. Guys are committed for so long, right? On our end, it's kind of another day of operation. Excited in the morning, but usually by like 8 o'clock, everybody's in, and then you're kind of focused on the next.
It's because, as Tony Elliott kind of was alluding to there, in roster construction in college football, college basketball is this way too. You're not hanging on every word of a high school player knowing, gosh, I see a lot of potential in this player. If we can just get him locked up, he'll be in the door for a couple of years and we'll be able to develop him. Now, if guys aren't playing after the second year, it's pretty clear they're going to enter the transfer portal. Like, gone are the days of, hey, it took a while, I had to battle, I hit some adversity, but by year 3 or 4, I finally made my mark. If you haven't made a mark by year 2 and don't feel like you're seeing the field enough in your second year, there's just not a lot of patience between not just players, but coaches as well. They know that players are going to leave if they're good. So coaches want players that can make a more immediate contribution. The concept of developing players is not a total lost art, but it has been devalued than it's ever been before. And also, when you're talking about the reality of signing big classes, impactful classes, transfer portal is more dictated by it being a business decision. I heard it classified that way even in the beginning of the transfer portal about a decade or so ago. When players would transfer, they had to sit out, but you'd have players that transfer. It was viewed as much more of a business decision. And it got more businessy when the waivers got more relaxed as far as what the NCAA would allow for players to count as a, quote, exemption, end quote, or an exemption, quote unquote, to get out of having to sit out a year. And then obviously it went to court. That whole model got blown up because the court said NCAA should have thought about this better. We're not going to make them employees. You don't really have any leverage over them, so they can transfer like any other student can and be immediately eligible. Voila, it changed. But James Franklin also, he had a different take from Virginia Tech. Even with Virginia Tech emphasizing high schools, wanting to do more of it, the reality is if you want to build a strong class and develop them and retain them, it's not just getting them in the door and helping develop them and seeing the field. It's having a financial plan in place that even if they're not playing a lot early, they feel financially compensated so that they stick around with you rather than going somewhere else to get on the field and then maybe bounce back to their third school in 4 years or 5 years where they can get the field.
Relationships are important, but I've had relationships with kids that I feel like our relationship was better than any other place in the country. But if the NIL package is too wide, this isn't the old days of 85 scholarships where it just comes down to relationships and what you've been able to produce on the field. So you got to have the resources. That's the reality of today's college football.
I mean, it is. And you have to look at it that way. And take Liberty or JMU, for example, in this. Like, those are programs that you have good players, you have good seasons, you're almost certain to lose them. I go back again to what Jamie Chadwell said when pressed by NewsAdvance.com's Bryson Gordon, who appeared in the morning warm-up Wednesday with Trey Lyle, 7 to 8 a.m. The morning warm-up and VTR in sports, wherever you listen to podcasts, because...
And guess what? We keep receipts.
But he said this about Evan Dickens and the game he had against Kennesaw State, continuing a string of good games from the former Georgia Tech, now current, but probably not for long, Liberty Flames running back.
He's been, tremendous, and we had the plan there that, hey, we wanted to keep the ball. We wanted to try to limit their opportunities, obviously not turn the ball over. Wanted to try to feature, him and some of the run game and obviously the number of carries that he had. And he was a bell cow and phenomenal. I mean, the runs and the running through arm tackles, and he was just physical. And I thought he was tremendous.
And that's the evaluation. And if he can see that, then obviously Jamie Chadwell can see this too.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to keep him. I'll tell you that. That's part of the problem when a guy breaks out like that and has all that. So, hopefully we can get him back.
Well, if you're in that spot, I should have beeped out the word hope. I have to get my, usher on for a second and confess that I forgot to do that. But when you're talking about the Liberty Flames losing this guy, the coaching staff knows it, then they're keenly aware they're going to have to find a way to bring back more and supplement that, which means if you're going to lose that contribution of Evan Dickens, you'd probably rather have a guy that's got some college experience and college skill set. And it could be a transfer down of a guy that didn't get playing time, but you see something out of from high school and maybe initial development at college. Like, it's not that Liberty can't do this. Evan Dickens was a Georgia Tech running back who happened to go to Liberty, now got a chance and balled out. Quentin Cooley's another example of that. He was at Wake Forest, didn't really get the field there, but boy, he came to Liberty and thrived in the Jamie Chadwell system. This is just the modern landscape of college athletics. And you're going to have guys that don't get the playing spot at one Power 5 destination, come down to a Liberty, and then turn right back around and leave because as long as the system allows it, that's the step that they're going to take. Meanwhile, if you're in an accident, the step you're going to take is you're going to visit call 777-HERD and visit trostlaw.com. Bear in mind, it's treacherous out there on the roads. For some, more than others, especially when there's inclement weather. Some people are still doing crazy things. The reality is they might injure you. And if that happens, you need to make sure you're protected. That's why it's worth calling the friends of ours at trostlaw.com. They've been serving
not one, not two, not three, not four.
a little over 4 decades, as LeBron James always likes to remind us. And that's why you should call Trost Law and visit them at 777-HURT. Now, right result, wrong process. That is how we begin the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
Look, if Virginia Tech did not get James Franklin, Bob Chesney was one of the guys that I would like to have seen, and I think he could have done better than UCLA, so I think he would have been a realistic choice for Virginia Tech. But the other candidate that we brought up at the beginning of the coaching search and seemed like he was never going to take the job at Virginia Tech, maybe because eventually he would have gotten poached by Penn State. Well, it looks like that's actually what's going to happen. Matt Campbell to Penn State. Now, the reality is, while Matt Campbell is going to leave Iowa State and go to Penn State, it's the process to get there, where you had so many other coaching candidates that never materialized for Penn State. From Kalani Sitake to Jeff Brom to Brent Key to others who leveraged this to just get a pay raise where they were. I have seen this and heard this, and please forgive me if I am forgetting to quote or to use the Andy Pettit, Roger Clemens example from back in the PED era, misremembering. But if I am misremembering this information, it's actually legitimate. $300 million at least in new money contracts that have been awarded by coaching candidates of Penn State who basically leveraged that job to go somewhere else. That's why. Look, Matt Campbell, I think, has done a great job with X's and O's. He's shown he can navigate the ups and downs of a program. Now, the problem is Penn State doesn't seem to have much patience for downs because they had a lot of ups, and then they finally get a down this year. 3-game losing streak. Apparently, that's enough to get rid of James Franklin. Virginia Tech says, thank you very much. And now all of a sudden, the Hokies are in a much better spot than they were in before. I think Matt Campbell's a really good tactically speaking coach. It's just the process to get here, TJ, is where it's worth criticizing.
No, for sure. I think at the end, Matt Campbell may have been the best man for the job, in my opinion.
I agree with that. So I see complete value in that. Meanwhile, too,
number 4.
The NFL and Big 12 Conference are entering into a strategic partnership, working side by side on things like officiating development, global football initiatives, emerging technology, analytics, and even flag football expansion with the goal of growing the game for generations to come. That last part, obviously, according to the league release. But the reality is this is forward thinking. Look, some of this is semantics, but it gives the perception of the Big 12 being a more progressive, focused conference. Is this another reason to criticize the ACC? Like, the ACC to me is very reactionary. Some of it, I think, is Jim Phillips' background, thinks more from the academia side and not the business side. And in the business world, you've got to think business interest and opportunities. And I just don't think that's Jim Phillips' background and his training. And some of that's on the ACC schools for valuing that type of thinking in an era where you need to find more revenue resources. So you need someone with more of an innovative business approach. And therefore, Jim Phillips, more of the old school mindset for a commissioner in an era where that is less necessary than it's ever been. Meanwhile,
number 3.
2 nuggets of injury note in the NFL. 1, the Washington Commanders upgraded Jaden Daniels, quarterback, to a full participant at yesterday's practice, and now today officially announcing that he will be the starter this coming Sunday at Minnesota. Look, the Commanders are, by all accounts, not going to make the playoffs. They just have lost too much this year, but they look like the type of team that is ripe to play spoiler. Again, as an Eagles fan to get my confession on. This is a scenario where I can easily see the Commanders playing spoiler over the back half of the season. They played Denver hard. That was without Jane Daniels. I think they'll play other teams hard. And speaking of the Philadelphia component to this, they're without now Jalen Carter, at least for this coming Monday's game at the LA Chargers, which you'll be able to hear on the VTRN Sports app and VTRN Sports 93.3 FM, powered by ESPN Radio. Jalen Carter's departure from Philadelphia is a big gap for a defensive line that has been very inconsistent this year. He didn't look like he was very good. They were blown off the ball. They had their worst game in run defense of the year against the Chicago Bears. I know the Cowboys lost last night, but I still see a path where the Cowboys could sneak in and give the Eagles a lot of pressure later in the season. And it just seems like Philly's a powder keg, waiting for one more chemistry issue to trigger them an explosion. I could see this crumbling down the stretch for Philly in spite of the Dallas Cowboys losing last night to the Detroit Lions. And yes, giving me the thrill of watching another wonderful Dan Campbell press conference. Meanwhile,
Number 3.
50 laps were added to the NASCAR Cup Series race at North Wilkesboro, making it the 450-lap event instead of 400. It will now be a points-paying Cup Series race this coming spring. Given how the short track packages worked in NASCAR, shouldn't they have subtracted 50 laps instead? Did Mike Neff, friend of ours in the Fast Lane and one of the senior contributors for FrontStretch.com, happen to just tack this on in NASCAR's being distracted by the lawsuit? Which, by the way, Trey had a great update with Michael Massey of FrontStretch.com yesterday in the morning warm-up. Check it out, the morning warm-up, wherever you listen to podcasts. But I will get more into that as it transpires. But adding laps when you need to be subtracting with this type of track, to me, no bueno. Meanwhile,
Number 2.
pour one out. RIP to one of my favorites, the Bahamas Bowl. Adios, sayonara, no mas. In its place, Arkansas State and Missouri will play in the Frisco Bowl in Texas on December 18th. Nothing like outdoors in Dallas, Texas suburbs as opposed to the Bahamas. But considering, as Liberty fans experienced last year, that this timing was terrible, it was after New Year's, that's just a bad time to be holding a bowl. The surface wasn't exactly fantastic. The logistics were a challenge, as John Manson from MissierRide.com has recounted many times. Pour one out for the Bahamas Bowl, but it seems like logistics made it much more impossible than if they had just had it before Christmas or in that Christmas to New Year's break where people would go down and actually experience it. Meanwhile, back to the NFL. The NFL and the NFL Players Association have agreed to a new model for selecting playing surfaces in stadiums, one that will require teams to choose from an approved set of manufacturers and styles for both natural and synthetic fields. Look, a lot of people point to the synthetic fields as being bad for knee injuries because the cleats get stuck in them and it makes turning on a violent angle more treacherous for players. They're obviously natural playing surfaces like the one in Landover, Maryland, and the one in Chicago, which has just been a disaster for years and never very well kept and maintained. I think this is a smart move. I hope it makes for better playing surface. It's kind of flown under the radar, but worth mentioning because it could improve the product that you experience. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, we'll pivot off of that back to the Virginia Cavaliers' quest for an ACC championship. Ahmad Hawkins, Virginia football analyst and of the Virginia Sports Radio Network, will join us next here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app and ask that smart speaker open VTRN Sports.
Hey folks, Mark Dalton here with Terry Subaru. It's that time of year again for the Subaru Share the Love event. That's when we donate $325 for every new Subaru we sell from now through January 2nd. This donation goes to 5 well-deserving charities like Meals on Wheels, the ASPCA, the National Parks Foundation, Make-A-Wish, or our local charity, the Lynchburg Humane Society. So come take advantage of some fantastic year-end deals at Terry Subaru and help us share the love.
All roads lead to the 2025 ACC Football Championship game this Saturday, December 6th at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. Virginia takes on Duke with college football playoff implications on the line. It's a primetime showdown to crown the ACC champion. Tickets are on sale now, and a full weekend of activities at Uptown Charlotte features a free concert with Grammy Award-winning artist Rick Ross. Purchase your tickets now at theacc.com. That's theacc.com. The ACC champion will be crowned in Charlotte. Make sure you're there.
Hi, Danny from Gibbons Books Little Dickens. We believe in reading and play and in shopping locally for stronger communities. 3 times more jobs are created by local businesses versus online sales. This holiday season, live local and shop local for a better Central Virginia.
Hey, this is Jake with Western Ways in Forest. Shop our thousands of pairs of boots in store with personalized customer service and excellent pricing. Shop Western Ways this holiday season. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's from our family to yours.
Want an outdoor oasis? The Concrete Wizard can restore and revitalize your pool deck or patio. After the Concrete Wizard works the magic, your old, tired concrete will look new again. For pool decks, the Concrete Wizard can install a safe, innovative rubber surfacing option that's slip-resistant, soft, and easy on the feet. A great choice for families and anyone concerned about safety. Visit theconcretewizard.com for some ideas, then contact them today for a free consultation to create your perfect outdoor oasis.
ETRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. The games play here. Championship weekend has arrived. North Texas takes on Tulane on Friday night in the AAC Championship game, with coverage starting at 7:30 p.m. Then Saturday, a multitude of conference championship games. Starting at 11:30 a.m. with BYU taking on Texas Tech in the Big 12. After Hokies basketball, it's the SEC Championship game between Alabama and Georgia. Then the nightcap, the ACC Championship game as Duke takes on Virginia. Check out all the games on VTRN Sports, 93.3 FM, 1320 AM, the VTRN Sports app, and Azure Smart Speaker open VTRN Sports. Dashing through deals online, can't find anything. Oh, what do I do? Insane radio deals, 24% off. Use promo code Christmas. You heard that right. Going on right now at insaneradiodeals.com. It's 24% off all items on the site when you use promo code Christmas. That's promo code Christmas at checkout for 20% off all items at insaneradiodeals.com.
Former Virginia Tech coaching great Bud Foster, co-host of Foster and Friends, has always produced a winning philosophy.
What they said now doesn't mean anything. What we do now is going to make everything.
When it comes to life, the boardroom, or the football field, Bud knows there's a right way and a winning way. Listen to Foster and Friends with Bud and yours truly, Mac McDonald, on 93.3 FM Lynchburg and the VTRN Sports app.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Well, here we go. Virginia Cavaliers. A lot of people didn't think it could happen. They did internally. They have a chance to make it come to reality Saturday night down in Charlotte against Duke. ACC football championship game. Someone who will be on the call for the Virginia Sports Network, a friend of ours in the Fast Lane and former Virginia Cavalier wide receiver great, Ahmad Hawkins, with us in the Fast Lane. Ball Hog, great to be speaking with you. Thank you for making time with us from Charlotte. First of all, how much is there a celebration of getting to this for the Virginia Cavaliers, given that not a lot of people thought they could do this, at least externally, but clearly they believed and backed it up internally?
I mean, you celebrated on Saturday night after defeating Virginia Tech, and on Sunday. But once Monday hit, you got to move on to the next game and continue to strive to achieve your goal, which the ultimate goal was to win the ACC championship.
For Virginia, you referenced the ultimate goal of winning the ACC championship. How much was the way Saturday's win against Virginia Tech evidence of that, when they were clearly in control, but it was obvious once it got to about 17-0, at least from my perspective, that Virginia Tech wasn't moving the ball enough to be able to get 3 scores without the help of turnovers and special teams. And therefore, Virginia, they could have run the score up, and instead it almost is like they went into an economical game management mode so they could save more resources in terms of exertion for this Saturday's game against Duke with a bigger prize at stake.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is, you strive to play your best game. You strive to achieve that perfect game. But in the end, you just want to win. And I know the offense was still trying to execute to score points, and it just wasn't as sharp as they wanted to be. And I don't know if they called the dogs off, but I know, you wanted to make sure guys stay healthy. Took Chandler Morris out. But even with the backups in, you're still trying to score points. But it was just good to just beat Virginia Tech, because that's something we haven't done a lot in the last 20 years. So at the end of the day, we were just still trying to win that game and didn't really care how it looked, but you cared how it looked.
Well, I mean, it's emphatic. That's the reality of it. Did you take pride afterwards in that, and even calling it, Ahmad, again, to get my usher on for just a moment here in the Fast Lane? I was in the press box, so I was not actually listening to your call. What level of pride did you and still do you feel? Can you confess with us, we're all friends here, that Virginia finally not only got over the hump, but that there's no doubt this time of who was the better team.
Yeah, you want to have a wire to wire victory over your rival. Like, I could be honest with you. So, the fashion in which we won, winning by 20 points, you want that because the last time they was in our building, they did the same thing. And you remember them celebrating on our hill. You remember them smoking cigars in the middle of our field. So all that is in the back of your mind. So seeing Virginia Tech fans leaving early was a pleasure for myself. So even live on air, I was singing to them, goodbye. But that's all in good fun. But yeah, man, that's our rival. So, they could always say that they had the 15 years of beating us in a row. So no matter what we do, they always gonna harp on that. So, you win that game and then we move on to this ACC championship.
Good for the rivalry, though, that now they've got, Virginia's got to win against Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech can now still, downplay it because of James Franklin. Seems like a level of trash talk is back, which makes rivalries fun.
Yeah, I mean the fans. At the end of the day, fans gonna talk trash. I mean it doesn't matter what the outcome is. They're going to talk trash leading up to the game, and then you're gonna have a history lesson after the game if it didn't work your way. So if we win, they're gonna harp on the history of the rival. If they win, they're gonna continue to say, well, they won this game. So at the end of the day, we won. We got the cup. We're off to bigger and better things. They can focus on that off season with James Franklin and what he brings to the table. And he was a great hire, and we see what he's doing in recruiting. So that in itself, that's fun. So both programs are focusing on two different things, and the fans could just go their separate ways in a sense. But we know they're paying attention to what we're doing, and they're preying on our downfall because that's what a rival does.
Well, it is, and it adds some spice and flair to it. One more on this before we look ahead to Virginia against Duke for the ACC Championship on Saturday evening. Is Ahmad Hawkins, former Virginia wideout, now analyst for the UVA Radio Network, is with us in the fast lane. Did you hear the same stories that I got to experience when I was getting down on the field, which is the security advising the students to delay their rush till Virginia Tech got off the field so there would be no fine, and saying that if you do that, it could leave a little money left over for NIL purposes?
Nah, I didn't. I ain't know anything about that. I just saw that our players went up and wanted them to celebrate with them, because we won the cup. So that's just one of the things. But I didn't hear anything about the scheme of making sure we don't get fined. That was something that Petty Hawk didn't even. I was just more invested in watching they fans leave. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, bye, see you later. You can't celebrate on our field this year. That's what I was more worried about.
You were taking great joy in watching them head for the exits then. That was the highlight for you.
Yeah, I mean, they take great joy in our pain, so I'm gonna return the favor. Like, I don't like to be petty too much, but it's like, yeah, like anytime they get the one up on us, we take it on the chin. So you have to take it on the chin, like be a graceful loser, because that's what we've been for many years. Learn to be a graceful loser. Don't be a sore loser. That doesn't look good. That's ugly. Be a graceful loser.
If anybody's got experience, Ahmad Hawkins has been through this thick and thin with the Virginia Cavaliers. It makes it all the more rewarding that Virginia gets ready to compete for an ACC football championship. Going into that Virginia Tech game, everybody could see just from an X's and O's standpoint, Virginia was clearly the better team to Virginia Tech. They get ready for Duke this coming Saturday. I know it's more of an even matchup than maybe the last game indicated, but the last time Virginia was in this spot was when they got beat pretty soundly by the Clemson Tigers. How different is Virginia, and how much better equipped are they as a program to win this championship this time and get a pretty cool reward out of it, a trip to the college football playoff?
I mean, this time they're a favorite. This time they have 10 wins. It's a different head coach. You're facing a different opponent. So both teams are coming in trying to be the champ. While Clemson, they was like the defending champ. If this was boxing, they had the belt. And they've been on the biggest stage. It's almost like facing Floyd Mayweather on pay-per-view. Like, they've been here before. They know what it takes. So now it's both teams really trying to show that their program has arrived. So both teams are going to be hungry. They're going to be fighting hard. And not saying that when the last time we would say we wasn't fighting hard, but Clemson knew what it took. The coaches know what it takes. Manny Diaz and Coach Elliott. You have players who've been at different programs that know what it takes as far as winning championships. At ACC Championship, it's like everybody's trying to find that way to get to that pinnacle. And that's why this game is going to be so much fun, because what happened a couple weeks ago means nothing. Like, we're here now.
So Virginia ran the football very effectively that first game down in Durham. Do you anticipate that that will be the bread and butter, at least the start, and making Duke show that they can stop the running game led by Jamari Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's been our bread and butter all year when we've been successful and been looking really good on offense. It starts with the running game, and Duke's going to do the same thing. Duke has a very good running game, and when they are successful, it's because they can set the table running the football, then have you invest a lot of resources to stopping them running. Now they can utilize those weapons they have on the outside to win one-on-one matchups. So it's going to be a mirror image of both teams want to make sure they neutralize the running game. We were fortunate enough last time we held them under 50 yards rushing, and we were able to run the football. And our overall rushing yards look good because Jamari had a 70-yard touchdown run, but consistently we were able to control the line of scrimmage. So this time they're going to try to make sure they neutralize that.
Ahmad, what's the backup plan? If Duke has a better defense against Virginia's rushing attack, how equipped are the Virginia Cavaliers, not necessarily the Chandler Morris element, but particularly in pass protection, given the questionable status of stud offensive lineman Mikhail Boley?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that Duke is going to try to see if they can win with four. Like, that's every defense. Want to see if you can win with four first, and if you need to bring more guys, you do that to generate more pressure, be educational in the way that you're rushing the quarterback, and you want to make sure you can disguise coverage on the back end so the quarterback can identify the matchup and get the ball out quickly. So that's going to be the chess match, and that's seemingly always a chess match. And Manny Diaz does a good job of pressuring quarterbacks, bringing guys off the edge. Rivers is a good corner for them. He was second team All ACC this year, but last year he was first team. He's an All American, so he's a good corner in his own right. So they have pieces to make it difficult for you. So it's just all about, can Chandler Morris identify matchups pre-snap and get the ball out quick? Because if you can get the ball out quick, you can neutralize pressure that they're trying to bring to you, and vice versa. It's same thing with Duke. They want to see. This time around, can they protect when we just send four? And then when we decide to send 5 or 6, can they identify those matchups and take advantage of it? So if you could catch teams blitzing, it's all about generate that explosive play to really make them make a decision. Like, are we going to hold our hands, or are we going to still keep firing all cylinders? So that's the beautiful thing about football, man. It's a big time chess match.
It is. It's one of the cool things for football. It's chess on
Mhm.
grass, or
Yeah.
astroturf in some cases, field turf. But in this case, it's legitimately grass. Ahmad Hawkins with us here in the Fast Lane, W227BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Danville Southside, and the VTRN Sports app. Ahmad, Cam Robinson went down with the injury, turned out to be a torn ACL. That was the first time against Duke. Does Virginia take solace in the fact that they found a way to still be dominant when he left the game, or do you have to throw that out the window because Duke, they now have a chance to game plan, and having seen a little bit of Virginia and how they work without Cam Robinson, as opposed to that time being more of an in-game adjustment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. Duke now has film to game plan how we play defense without Cam Robinson, and if we change up what we do because Cam isn't there. Magnus Marcellus did a great job versus Virginia Tech of just being the same, the playmaker which Cam displays. He's not Cam, but he made huge plays in which Cam makes within our defense. And Cam is a integral part of our defense. He was second in Defensive Player of the Year voting for the ACC behind Bain, and that just goes to show how special he is. But you just gotta have guys just galvanize and continue to increase their level of play when you don't have a talent like that available for you defensively. And just know Duke is going to try to attack what they feel like is the weakness of our defense without him being there. So it's going to be some times where they probably make some plays because Cam is not in there. But at the same time, we can show wrinkles that we can utilize to neutralize what they're trying to do with us now that Cam isn't there for the entire game, because he was only there 3 plays the last game we played him.
We are at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Ahmad Hawkins, he's at I Am Ballhawk on Twitter and Instagram. The ways to keep up with him. Sometimes Petty Hawk, yes, he's here in the Fast Lane as well. He was here making a cameo earlier today. Ahmad, last one for you. I'm sure you envision Virginia winning, hoisting the ACC Championship trophy, and punching their ticket to the college football playoff. How do you feel this game is going to be in terms of game flow? How do you see it, and how will you present it? Do you envision this being a closer contest than the trip to Durham, about the same, more emphatic? What is your projection in that regard?
I expect a closer game. I expect Duke to come out and be physical, be fast, try to create explosive plays. I think they definitely want to establish a line of scrimmage. They want to run the football. Shepard's a good back. Um, so it's just something that they're going to take pride in not allowing what happened in Durham to take place here in Charlotte. I know they are. So if you're our defense and our offense, you have to know, like, they're going to punch you in the mouth, and how you going to respond to it. Because we were controlling that game so much that they never really, our team never really got the sense of, oh man, we in a dogfight. We was in the driver's seat so much. So I want to see, if it takes place tomorrow, if they jump out to a 7-0 lead, how do we respond? But if we jump out to a 7-0 or 10-0 lead, do they feel like, here we go again, or will they keep fighting? I think they'll keep fighting, because Manny Diaz is not just going to let them just allow what happened during to happen again if he has something to do with it. But if it goes that way, I'll be happy, because that means we won. But I'm expecting a tough fight, because I got a lot of respect for that program and the players they have over there.
Bracing himself for a thriller in Charlotte, obviously hoping that it will result in Virginia hoisting the championship trophy, and Ahmad Hawkins expecting that in the end, but not without some struggle, which makes it all the more rewarding, Ahmad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, with Virginia fans, we make it tough. Like our basketball team, the Cardiac Cavs. So, anytime a Virginia team on a big stage, there's usually some drama.
Oh, yeah. I'll never forget 2019. It was basketball. Everyone knows about how they won the championship. People forget, but lacrosse, when they won their championship later that year, it was the same way. Three times they had goals. They won with 13 goals. Very lucky instead of unlucky.
Hopefully we could be like our swimming and diving team and just dominate. If I had to pick a program to just win and never feel like I'm sweating, it's our diving and swimming, program. But
you go in there and you watch it, and it's barely a splash in the pool. Meanwhile, me, it's like throw the raft in. I can run, but I ain't a swimmer. You throw me in the pool.
Nah, I ain't no swimmer. I'll stick to running.
Ahmad and I will have a race together one day. We'll get to run a race, and then if you throw us in the water afterwards, the speed will vanish quickly.
Yeah, it definitely will. I'll try to keep up with you. You got the pace. I'll try to keep up with you.
Hey, if I have to outrun you early. If I leave it around, I know you're a sprinter. You got that football background. You'll be leaving me in the dust.
Yeah, that'll be my only chance. If I have the sprint, if your pace is that much advanced, you'll take my sprint away by each mile. I won't have nothing left. So, that's another chess match right there.
It is. We might have to pick an event to have some fun with that, Ahmad. In the meantime, we'll have fun listening and watching this Saturday from Charlotte. Enjoy your time down there. I see you're in the hotel room. Get a good night's rest, and have a good call tomorrow.
I appreciate you, brothers. Always be blessed, and wahoo wah.
Always. Family from one to the other. Ahmad Hawkins with us here in the Fast Lane. That does it for us today. Now it's on to Freddie and Harry, already in progress. And then at 7:30, the AAC Championship. Tulane at North Texas on the VTRN Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
They did it at the highest level every day, and they drew the best out of their players, and they coached them hard in practice. They supported them during games.